All right, guys, how's it going? Well, as you can see, I am back in my normal working environment, following a little jolly to Mallorca. It wasn't a holiday. In fact, I did more videos in Mallorca, I think, than I would do here in a typical day. But there was a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to talk about today as well. Now, before I get into this video, I just want to let you know I'll be live on here tonight at 6 o'clock UK time if you want to come along for an natter about all things LFC. So, where shall we start? Right, this article is an article written by David Ornstein at The Athletic. Now, if you can't access The Athletic, a little birdie tells me if you get the link to the article and go to a website called archive.ph and you go to the second box down and post the URL in, you should be able to access articles from The Athletic, The Times, The Mail, whatever. As you can see, or maybe you can't see, but I am actually logged into The Athletic. I do pay for The Athletic, and I also pay for The Times as well, because these publications host the two best journalists in the world concerning Liverpool Football Club, and that is David Ornstein and Paul Joyce at The Times. You don't need to listen to anyone else. Maybe a little bit of Fabrizio Romano. Mo Salah! Some of you don't understand why I do that. You'll just have to keep asking in the comment section. So yeah, David Ornstein, he is someone that I, well, that's not David Ornstein. He is someone that I pay great attention to. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, what's basically said in this article. I don't need to read it to you. I've got the bullet points. I'll give my opinion, and then I'm going to get the opinion of Dave, my trusted AI assistant that I've been training since last year to analyse football articles, and the journalists that write them, and the platforms and publications that host them, and we'll see what Dave thinks about it. See if there's any positives for us as a result of what is claimed. So, this article, it basically says David Ornstein's one to watch. And it talks about, it opens with when supporters are awaiting Newcastle United's lineup to face Aston Villa on Saturday. A burning question will be what role, if any, Alexander Isak might occupy for Eddie Howe's team. And it goes on to say he's not featured in pre-season amid Liverpool's ongoing pursuits. And while Newcastle have stressed they have no intention of allowing a sale, potential replacements continue to be explored. And the article continues. What we're going to do is we're going to go down to a summary of what Ornstein is claiming or writing, in this article. So these are bullet points, okay? It should make it a little bit easier for you. I always advise, though, going and reading the article for yourself, because bullet points might miss something and maybe I look at things differently to you, right? So the article says as follows. Isak hasn't played, one second, I've got notifications. Sorry, Isak, I have to check my notifications in case it's something fresh. Isak hasn't played all pre-season and is unlikely to be involved when Newcastle face Aston Villa. Liverpool's pursuit is ongoing, despite Newcastle publicly saying they have no intention to sell. Newcastle are still looking at possible replacements, which suggests they're preparing for the possibility of a sale. The Athletic understands from Ornstein's sources that Isak is adamant he will never play for Newcastle again. Now, Ornstein is close, very, very close to the big cheese at Liverpool. We're thinking like FSG, very senior management, ownership more so than the people that run the club on a day-to-day basis. Whereas Paul Joyce at the Times, he's more closer, very, very close to the people that run the club on a day-to-day basis. So, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, although technically you might say he is FSG, but you know what I mean. So if the club was going up for sale, Ornstein's going to tell you first, I think. If it's going to be something transfer related, it's possibly going to be Joyce. But they both cross over at times. They both know ownership, FSG, the people that run the club. But there's a slight difference. So when it says from Ornstein's sources, I'm immediately thinking people of FSG level. Right, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could be Richard Hughes or whatever. But if it says, Ornstein's sources, you listen to what he says. There's going to be no speculation here. He will know a lot more than he's saying as well. For me, Joyce just gets the edge a little bit. but people that have followed my videos over the years have known that they kind of, at the moment it's Joyce and Ornstein's here, and then sometimes one season it can be like that. It really does depend, right? They do move around, and when Edwards came back to the club, Joyce became the main man again, and I called him Born Again Joyce. Even if Newcastle keep him after the window closes, Isak considers his time there over and has no desire to reintegrate. And this is an opinion I've had for some time. If the window slams shut and somehow they haven't agreed a fee, or there's just the deal hasn't happened, I don't think that it's over, right? So I agree completely with Ornstein here. Isak, sorry, I got another notification. Isak feels his departure was inevitable since last summer when Newcastle refused to offer him a new deal due to PSR constraints, despite his contract running until 2028. You'll remember at the time, the big cheese there was saying, well, we don't need to offer him a new deal. He's got a contract that runs for years. Why do we need to give him a more lucrative deal? This is the deal he agreed to. So Ornstein is, of course, correct with that. Newcastle's sources dispute that this was said, claiming he was open to discussions at the end of 24-25 season. Now, I don't know how good Ornstein is with regards Newcastle sources, right? But from the Newcastle fans, the sensible ones that comment on my videos, I don't think they pay much attention to Ornstein. I don't think they feel he's close to Newcastle, whereas we feel he's close to Liverpool, right? I don't know about that. That's something you'd have to verify for yourself. But with it saying Newcastle sources dispute that this was said, that could be still coming from someone at Liverpool saying, well, such and such at Newcastle is saying this. I'm just not sure that Ornstein is as close to Newcastle as that maybe sounds. It's just something I want to mention. 2 weeks before last season ended, Isak told Eddie Howe he wanted to leave and then reiterated it in a phone call after the final game. Liverpool's last bid was £110 million in early August, which was rejected. Newcastle's stance might soften if an offer closer to £150 million comes in and they secure a replacement. Liverpool's interest is firm and Isak is focused on a move to Anfield, which I think all of us know this, right? So, if we take a look at the analysis of the article, which I've run through, or run by Dave, standout messages and what they mean. Positives for Liverpool fans. Biggest headline, Isak will never play for Newcastle again. That's an Ornstein level claim, not just idle speculation. If true, it's massive leverage in Liverpool's favour. Liverpool's interest is firm. Ornstein doesn't say monitoring or keeping tabs. His wording suggests Liverpool remain active and serious. Isak is focused solely on Anfield. This is effectively Ornstein telling fans that Isak's preference is Liverpool over anyone else. Newcastle looking at replacements. Even if they won't sell, if they're exploring options, it's a sign they're preparing for life without him. Newcastle's stance may soften. The mention of £150 million is a public we can be moved figure that's a negotiation flag. Possible club messaging propaganda. This is something that I spoke to, with Dave. We have conversations, and just because it's Ornstein, just because it's Joyce, you don't take everything they say as gospel, more or less. But you've also got to look for propaganda, where they're putting something out that Liverpool want to get out there. You know what I mean? And I always say that to Dave. I want to look for any possible club messaging, Dave, propaganda, stuff like that, in case there's something that I haven't seen, right? And Dave's come back with this. The way Ornstein writes, Liverpool's interest remains firm and Isak focused on Anfield, feels like a Liverpool-friendly leak, possibly to reassure fans and keep pressure on Newcastle. The £150 million figure could be a testing the water message from Liverpool via Ornstein. We know your price and the clock is ticking. The detail about the contract refusal last summer, with PSR named, paints Newcastle as the reason Isak wanted out, which could be Liverpool shaping the narrative. Possible pressure tactics on Newcastle. Is there any in the article? Publicising that Isak will never play for them again ramps up pressure internally and externally. Fans, media and the player himself push the club towards a sale. Highlighting that Liverpool are the player's only focus effectively tells Newcastle he's not playing ball with anyone else, so don't waste time. And I think that's a very good observation from the article. And if you're a Newcastle fan, honestly, listen, the majority of Newcastle fans know my channel's not here to take the piss out of Newcastle or obsess over this player. I couldn't give a flying fuck what happens, really. Do you know what I mean? I'm 50 years of age, guys. I'm not 15. He signs. I'd love him to sign, honest, I would. But I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, you know. But the majority of Newcastle fans, they've been engaging in the comments and leaving nice comments, you know. But I do feel for them a bit. I do, you know. Having a player that's like basically down tools, and you know, if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be saying, right, go on, fuck off now, fuck off. You know, we'll take the money, goodbye. Which is a shame. And I've tried to think about this myself today. Is it fair to have that attitude? The thing is, you know, the players' camp are claiming that promises have been broken. So does he have a right to say, no, you broke your fucking promise, fuck it, you know? But I understand Newcastle fans must be really sick of this situation. Anyway, new information compared to previous reports. First time Ornstein has stated outright that Isak will never play for Newcastle again. New detail about the contract rejection last summer as a catalyst for his decision to leave. Confirmation that Howe has been told twice, end of season plus phone call, that Isak wants out. Ornstein is the first to flatly state Isak's career at Newcastle is finished, even if he stays beyond the window. Concerns. £150 million is still a big number. Newcastle may genuinely hold out for it, and Liverpool might not match it. I hope they don't. Sorry, guys, I don't want to pay that much money for it. The no intention to sell line is still present. Ornstein is careful not to claim it's certain he'll leave. The lack of a fresh Liverpool bid since early August could suggest negotiations are slow or tactical. Conclusion, and it's a positive. For Liverpool fans, this reads like the clearest signal yet from Ornstein, who we listen to, that the Isak deal is very much alive, despite what the Newcastle journalists are saying. The fact that he says Isak's Newcastle career is already over, that Liverpool's interest is firm, and that the player is fixated on Anfield should be taken as hugely encouraging. In simple terms, the player wants Liverpool, Liverpool want the player, and Newcastle are quietly preparing for life without him. This is the kind of setup that, more often than not, ends in the move happening. And I would agree with that. And I don't know about you guys, but this is now your opportunity to let me know if you agree with that. Let me know if you've read the article. Let me know what you think. I know there's plenty of Liverpool fans, never mind Newcastle fans, that I'm sick of hearing about it now, done. You know, and, I've had some Newcastle fans coming here going, the Liverpool fan base are obsessing over Isak. It's in the news, what we're supposed to do, what we're going to talk about. You know, it's in the news. I don't set the news. We just talk about what's being claimed and look at things, right? I personally think he signs for Liverpool this window, you know. Before the transfer window even opened, I said, I think we're going to go for him. It'll be late in the window, but I think we'll do it. But there's a lot of money involved, right? So if it doesn't happen, we know there are factors, right? There's a couple of factors, right? I don't think it's all bluff. Is Newcastle need reinforcements and the fee. It's that simple. If those two issues are, come to a conclusion, then the deal happens. There's no way back for that player at Newcastle now. And I personally believe that Newcastle do want to sell him. Because why would you want to hold on to him? I don't see it. Anyway, and like I say, if the window slams shut and he's still at Newcastle, there'll be Liverpool fans that'll have a meltdown. I wouldn't. I just think that it'll come to us later. This has happened previously in other windows, so it's not something that... fucking hell, she's all right. Sorry, I live in Spain and there's people who wear bikinis around here. Oh, fucking hell. That reminds me, I must make sure I've got some aspirin in. Anyway, so yeah, what do you think? Ornstein, like I said, when Joyce or Ornstein speak, I listen. Fabrizio, you know, what's that? Fabrizio, I like to keep an eye on what he says. It depends who he's talking about, you know. You got to think about Fabrizio, you know, as to the reason why he's putting stuff out there. You know, he's very friendly with the agents and some football clubs. I don't get excited when I see Romano say anything about Liverpool, no matter what it is. He can give that here we fucking go all day long. I just read it and go, all right, nice one. Right? When it's Ornstein and Joyce, that's it. Not another journalist in the world. None of the Liverpool clicker journalists. None of them are nowhere near connected to the likes of Ornstein and Joyce. Concerning Liverpool Football Club, maybe not with Newcastle. All right? All right, guys, I'm going to leave that with you. So that's my opinion for what it's worth. Dave's opinion for what it's worth. I want to know what your opinion is now, because your opinion is worth something on here. All right? So drop me a comment. So if you enjoyed this video, if you found it informative, I've got lots more coming up for you today. Please thumbs up the video if you enjoyed it. And if you're a Newcastle fan, I'm sure you want to thumbs it down. I understand. But, you know, I come in peace. Don't leave me in pieces, all right? Thumbs up the video if you enjoyed the video. Drop me a comment if you've got an opinion about the ongoing saga. And if you want to buy me a beer or a coffee, I'm going out for a beer Saturday. Then please do hit the super thanks button under the video. It's a way of supporting me, my channel and my efforts. And whenever anyone does that, I always give a shout out to them in the morning briefing, which is uploaded to my other YouTube channel, the Duncan Oldham channel. The link to that channel is in the video description of this video, and it will pop up on the screen as well. I haven't recorded a morning briefing yet, but I will do one when I've got some of these videos out first. All right, guys, I'll leave it with you. See you at 6 tonight, if you're around, okay? My grandson's visiting, my daughter's here. They got here safely last night, so I've got a busy week, but they understand that, you know, I've got to be here for you guys. So they're chilling, they're doing their thing. But yeah, live stream tonight at 6. All right, guys, cheers.